My name is David, and I've been married to Hannah for 10 years. We have 3 wonderful kids, and I always thought we were happy together. But that illusion shattered on the night we attended a party thrown by our neighbors, the Millers. Now, the Millers are known for their wild gatherings. Hannah had been eager to go for weeks, constantly talking about it like it was the social event of the year. She finally got us an invite through a friend of a friend, and I figured it would be fun. We had never been to one of their parties before, but I trusted my wife, so I didn't think much of it. When we arrived, everything seemed normal. People were mingling, the music was loud, and drinks were flowing. But as the night went on, I began to notice that the vibe was a little different. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but something just felt off. It wasn't until the party started winding down that things became clear. People gathered around a large bowl in the center of the room, and that's when I noticed something strange. Women, including my wife, were tossing their house keys into it, one after the other. Confused, I leaned over to Hannah and asked what was going on. She looked at me with a mischievous grin and said, "It's part of the fun, David. The guys pick a key, and whoever's key they get, well, they spend the night with her." I was stunned. My heart started racing. "What do you mean by spend the night?" I asked, though I already had a sinking feeling in my stomach. Hannah's expression didn't change, and she said, "You know, just for fun. It's not serious. It's just one night, an adventure to spice things up." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My wife, the mother of my children, had walked me into a swingers party without even giving me a heads up. My hands were shaking as I grabbed her arm and pulled her into the kitchen to talk privately. "You knew about this, didn't you?" I asked her, my voice barely steady. Hannah didn't even flinch. "Yeah, I knew," she said, looking almost smug. "I didn't tell you because I knew you wouldn't have come if you knew the details." I was furious, but more than that, I was heartbroken. I'd never felt so betrayed in my life. "We're leaving," I said, trying to control the rage building inside me. Hannah wasn't having it. She pulled her arm back and glared at me. "We can't just leave, David. That would be rude. Everyone's expecting us to stay, and besides, it's not like it's going to hurt anyone. It's just one night, no strings attached. It'll add some excitement to our marriage." I couldn't believe what she was saying. Excitement? This wasn't excitement, it was betrayal, plain and simple. "I don't need this kind of excitement, Hannah. This isn't what I signed up for when I married you. We're leaving." No. But she wasn't giving in. "It's just for fun, David. Everyone does it. It's not cheating if we're both part of it. Think about it, for once, we can both enjoy ourselves in ways we never have before." I was speechless. For a moment, I thought about what she was saying. Maybe some people could brush off infidelity like it was no big deal, but I wasn't one of them. "Hannah, you're asking me to share you with another man. Do you understand what that means? I don't want anyone else touching you, and I don't want to be with someone else. We've been married for 10 years. Does that mean nothing to you?" Her eyes narrowed. "I'm not asking you to share me forever, David. It's just for tonight. Just one night. After everything I've done for you and the kids for the past decade, I thought you'd give me this. Just a few hours to feel free, to be someone else for a change." I shook my head, my voice thick with emotion. "No. I'm not staying here. And if you want to, you're making a choice. Either come home with me now, or don't bother coming home at all." The words came out harsher than I intended, but I meant every single one of them. I wasn't going to let this happen, not to us, not to our family. I walked straight to the bowl of keys in the other room, reached in, and pulled out the one with the yellow tag, the one that belonged to our house. I held it up, announcing to everyone in the room, I wasn't told about this party's little rules beforehand. "I'm not sharing my wife with anyone. We're done here." There were murmurs and a few raised eyebrows. People gave me dirty looks, like I had just ruined their fun, but I didn't care. I turned to Hannah, still standing frozen by the kitchen door. "You can come with me, or you can stay, but I won't be here when you get home if you choose them." Hannah's face flushed with anger as I stood there, key in hand, waiting for her response. She looked around the room at the other couples, then back at me. "You're being dramatic, David. It's not like I'm running off with someone forever. It's just a little fun, one night. Why can't you just let me have this? The audacity of her words stung. Because it's not just one night for me, Hannah, I replied, my voice shaking with frustration. This will change everything between us. You're asking me to watch you walk away with another man, and somehow you expect things to be normal tomorrow? Do you even hear yourself right now? She crossed her arms, looking defiant. You don't understand. I've been stuck in the same routine for years, raising the kids, being the good wife. I just want to feel something different for once, to be seen by someone new. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. So what? You need some random guy to remind you that you're still attractive? I tell you every day how beautiful you are. I've been loyal to you, Hannah. I've never looked at another woman the way I look at you, and now you want me to be okay with this. She looked away, her jaw tight, refusing to answer. That silence told me everything I needed to know. Hannah had already made up her mind long before this night. She wasn't going to back down. Fine, I said quietly. But know this, if you walk out that door with someone else, you'll never come back through mine. We'll be over. Do you understand that? For a moment, I thought she might cave. Her eyes softened just a bit, and for a second, I saw the woman I married, the one who used to care about what we had built together. But just as quickly, the defiance returned. I'm sorry you feel that way, David. But I'm not going to let you control me. If this is what it takes for me to feel alive again, I'm doing it. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. Without another word, I turned and walked out the door. I didn't even look back. The moment I stepped outside, I knew everything had changed. The life I thought I had, the future I envisioned with her and our kids, it was all crumbling. As I got into the car, I half expected her to follow, to call my name and tell me she was sorry, that she made a mistake. But she didn't. I started the engine and drove away, leaving skid marks on the street, just like the ones on my heart. The drive home was a blur. My mind raced as I gripped the steering wheel, replaying everything that had just happened. I had always trusted Hannah, always believed we were solid, but tonight shattered that illusion. How had we come to this? How had the woman I married become a stranger who was willing to throw away everything we built for a fleeting thrill? I couldn't wrap my head around it. I was filled with anger, sure, but more than that, I felt this deep sense of loss. Like something precious had been ripped away, something I could never get back. By the time I pulled into our driveway, I wasn't sure what to do next. The house felt cold and empty, even though it was still filled with the memories of the life we had built together. I didn't go inside. Instead, I sat in the car, staring at the front door, waiting for... what, exactly? For Hannah to call and tell me she'd changed her mind? For her to apologize? My phone sat silent on the passenger seat. No call, no text. She wasn't going to change her mind. After sitting there for what felt like hours, I finally went inside. The silence was deafening. I wandered through the house aimlessly, passing by pictures of our family. Vacations, birthdays, little moments that now felt like they belonged to someone else's life. Eventually, I ended up in our bedroom. I couldn't bear to sleep in the bed that we shared, knowing she was off with someone else. So I grabbed a couple of suitcases and started packing. I didn't know where I was going to go, but I knew I couldn't stay here. Not tonight. Maybe not ever again. I packed enough clothes for a week and grabbed a few essentials, my laptop, some toiletries. As I reached for my wedding ring to take it off, a wave of emotion hit me. I stared at that band, the one I had worn for over a decade, and it suddenly felt so meaningless. I ripped it off my finger, walked into the garage, and smashed it with a hammer until it was nothing but a flattened piece of metal. That was it. The final break. Our marriage was as destroyed as that ring. I loaded the suitcases into the car and left, unsure of where I was headed but knowing I couldn't stay in that house another second. I found a cheap motel a few towns over, far enough away that no one would know me. I checked in, bought a 6-pack of beer from the gas station, and tried to drown out the pain with alcohol and TV. But nothing could dull the ache in my chest. Just as I cracked open my second beer, my phone buzzed. My heart skipped for a moment, hoping it was Hannah telling me she'd made a mistake. But when I looked at the screen, it wasn't her, it was some guy named Greg. "Hey, David. This is Greg from the party. Hannah gave me your number. Just wanted to say she's having a great time, and if you change your mind, you should come back. There's still a lot of fun to be had, and there are plenty of other women here who are interested in meeting you." I threw the phone across the room, barely resisting the urge to smash it like I had my wedding ring. The audacity! The absolute gall of this guy, texting me to rub it in. My wife was with another man, and they were acting like it was no big deal, like I was the crazy one for not wanting to be part of their sick game. I grabbed another beer and tried to drown out the anger, but nothing was working. The truth was, everything was spiraling out of control, and there was nothing I could do to stop it. I woke up the next morning with a pounding headache and the bitter taste of regret in my mouth. My phone, lying face down on the floor, was blinking with notifications. I didn't want to look at them, but I knew I had to. There were a few messages from Hannah, and the very thought of hearing what she had to say made me sick. Still, I couldn't resist. The first message was calm, almost casual. "David, you're overreacting. I don't know why you're acting like this is such a big deal. We'll talk about it when I get home." The second one came an hour later. "You didn't even stay to see what it was about. You stormed off, making me look like the bad guy. You need to relax. It's not like I'm falling in love with anyone else. I'm coming home tomorrow, and we'll figure this out. Just don't do anything stupid." The third voicemail came in the middle of the night. She sounded drunk, maybe even high off whatever thrill she'd gotten from her new adventure. "David, I know you're upset, but you'll understand. Glenn's a great guy, and this whole thing was just supposed to be fun. You'll see. When I come home, everything will be back to normal. I promise." Hearing her voice talking about Glenn, some random guy I didn't know and never wanted to know, made my skin crawl. How had we gotten here? She actually thought things could just go back to how they were, that I could somehow overlook the fact she spent the night with another man. And then the final voicemail played, and it nearly destroyed me. "David, I'm staying at Glenn's tonight. We're at his house now. He's married too, you know? His wife's off with another guy, and they're all having fun. I just wanted you to know that. It doesn't mean anything about us, okay? I love you. You're still my husband, and we'll talk tomorrow. Please don't be mad. I'll be back in the morning, and everything will be fine." That voicemail was the last straw. I couldn't hear another word from her. I felt like my heart had been torn out, like nothing was real anymore. How could she possibly believe that we could go back to the way things were after this? It was madness. I sat there, staring at the wall of the dingy motel room, trying to make sense of my life. Everything I thought I knew about love, loyalty, and marriage had crumbled in less than 24 hours. I felt like a fool, like I had been blind to who Hannah really was. And maybe, in some way, I had been. Maybe I had been ignoring signs, hoping that things were as perfect as I wanted them to be. But now the truth was out, and there was no going back. By noon, I decided to drive back home, but not for her. I needed to be in my house, in my space, and figure out what came next. I wasn't about to wait around for her to walk through the door and act like nothing had happened. When I got there, the house felt even emptier than before. I couldn't imagine her being here after what she had done, not in the same place where we had built our life together. I sat down at the kitchen table, staring at the walls, wondering how I was going to break this to our kids. They adored their mother, and I didn't want to be the one to tear their world apart. But at the same time, I knew they deserved better than this. They deserved a father who wouldn't tolerate disrespect, who wouldn't stay in a broken marriage just for appearances. As the hours passed, I found myself thinking less about the betrayal and more about my future. There was no question in my mind now. I had to end the marriage. I had to move on, for my sake and for the sake of my kids. Hannah could pretend all she wanted that everything would be fine, but I knew better. When my phone rang again, it was her. This time, I answered. "David, can we talk?" she asked, her voice softer than it had been in her messages. "I don't think there's anything left to talk about, Hannah," I replied, my voice steady but cold. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. I could hear her breathing, as if she was trying to find the right words to convince me that everything could still be salvaged. But I wasn't interested in hearing excuses anymore. "David, I'm sorry," she finally said. "I didn't think it would hurt you this much. I thought you'd understand. It was just supposed to be a one-time thing, something to spice things up. I love you, David. I never wanted to lose you. Her voice cracked, but I wasn't moved. It was too late for apologies, too late for any promises to fix what was broken. Hannah, I said, my voice firm but calm, you made a choice. You knew how I would feel about this, and you did it anyway. You chose them over me. You chose some random guy, Glenn, over your own husband. I didn't choose him over you, she interrupted, her voice rising. It wasn't about choosing him. It was about me feeling alive, feeling wanted again. Don't you see? I've been stuck in this role for so long, just a mom and a wife. I needed this. The words felt like knives. You needed this. I repeated, my tone dripping with disbelief. I've loved you for 10 years, Hannah. I've never looked at another woman, never wanted anything but you. And you threw it all away for what? A few hours of excitement. That's what our marriage means to you. She started crying again, but it didn't move me the way it once would have. David, please. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I thought we'd try it, and everything would be okay after. I never wanted to hurt you. I sighed, the weight of her words crushing me. Hannah, it's done. I can't go back to the way things were. You've crossed a line that can't be uncrossed. You slept with another man and tried to pretend like it wouldn't matter. But it does. It matters more than anything. There was silence again, and I could hear her sniffling through the phone. So that's it. You're leaving me, she whispered, her voice broken. I have to, I said quietly. I deserve more than this. Our kids deserve better than to see their father stay in a marriage where he isn't respected. I've made my decision, Hannah. I'll be filing for divorce. She sobbed into the phone, and for the first time in hours, I felt a pang of sorrow for the woman I had once loved so deeply. But that love wasn't enough anymore. It couldn't erase the betrayal. I'll come home and we'll talk, she said, trying to sound hopeful. I won't be here, I responded coldly. We'll work out the details of the divorce later, but I'm done. You made your choice when you decided to throw away our vows. I hope Glenn was worth it. With that, I hung up, feeling the finality of my words sink in. I knew she'd try to reach out again, but it didn't matter. My decision was made. I wouldn't let her walk all over me, and I wouldn't let her believe for a second that she could step out on our marriage and come back like nothing had changed. In the days that followed, I started taking steps to protect myself and my kids. I contacted a lawyer, started thinking about custody arrangements, and did everything I could to prepare for the end of our marriage. The hardest part was explaining it to our children, but I knew that staying with her would be worse in the long run. They needed to see what respect, boundaries, and integrity looked like. The truth was, I didn't just lose Hannah that night. I lost the future I thought we were building together. But as painful as it was, I knew that moving forward was the only option. Staying would mean living with a constant reminder of her betrayal, and I couldn't do that to myself or to my kids. It was going to be hard. There would be days when I missed the good times, the memories we had made together. But I would get through it. I had to. Because in the end, no matter how much love you have for someone, if they don't respect you, if they don't honor the commitment they made to you, then that love isn't enough to hold a marriage together. I learned that the hard way, but I came out stronger because of it. As I packed up the last of my things and closed the door on the life I had once known, I took one final look back, not with regret, but with resolve. I was stepping into the unknown, but I knew one thing for certain: I would never let anyone make me feel this small again. Thank you for visited my YouTube channel. Your support, likes, and comments truly inspire me to create even more engaging content. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. You're a part of this amazing community, and I'm thrilled to share my stories with you. See you in the next video on YouTube.